The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, y'all? I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. And today I'm doing this straight up and down with no special effects. But I wanted to talk to you today about an event that happened 100 years ago. The Centennial of the Oklahoma bombing. It gives you a new light on bombs. Where the native population of Greenwood was literally bombed, killing somewhere between 100, 200 people. But you know the figures. Some people say it could be as low as 30. Come on, man. You bombed an entire community. You bombed a community. But before I get started, before I forget, man, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. I want to give a shout out to Lidge Terrell, Rogish the Billmonger, Michael Ross, Gregory Oliver, Darkside Excellence, Greg, Rais Muajid, Darnell Smith, Antonio Ferrier, Papa Didas, Barry Little, Brotherly Love, 215, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, The Final Watcher, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, 77 Base X, Craig, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Nelso, Apex Prowler, Kareen Henry, Dr. Rock, Julius Ferguson, B. Hillfire, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Face, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, God Collard, Raphael Brown, Deanne, Donald Watts, Cozy Corner, HipHop.ca.tv, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Ominous Black, I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, Ab Media 83, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Artisan MC, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, Issa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, MLR, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Black's Word 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, See Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Author Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shahid, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, W. Pierre 1, BGS Ibmore, Marvin Battle Jr., and I cannot forget my brother in heaven, Force Windu. Also, on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to Chris York, Excalibur, Jason Warren, Soul Pen, Anu219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Kwaku217, S. Haywood, Dragon59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi Momal, William Ruffin, and Asangwa. Shout out to y'all, man. I appreciate all of your help and all of your support in helping to fund the Green Gorilla channel and helping me to keep this thing going. But I just want to get right to this. I know you're enjoying yourselves. It's Memorial Day weekend. People go out and they barbecue, they drink, they have picnics and, cookouts and stuff like that. So I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I hope you're well rested. I hope you had a good weekend, because if, that's all it is to you, at least you get to enjoy that. If you're at work, shout out to y'all, man. Some things don't stop. A lot of men are always on the move, always having to work. They very rarely, if ever, get time off. And the work they do is labor intensive. Shout out to y'all, man. If you're listening to this and you're at work, or if you're just, at your computer terminal, at your crib, or at your job, peace out. Shout out to y'all. So anyway, I'm just going to get right to this and explain what it is that I mean that the Tulsa Massacre was really Black Misandric Aggression. Okay? So I'm going to share the screen and I'm going to read this article to you. And the title of the article is Black Wall Street Was Shattered 100 Years Ago, How the Tulsa Race Massacre Was Covered Up and Unearthed. Now, this article was written by an Asian woman on CNBC's blog site. Okay. Her name is Yoon Lee, and it was published today. Okay. Early this morning. And I thought, when I saw it, I thought that it, would be well worth covering. Okay. So at any rate, the article starts off by saying, a century ago this week, the wealthiest US Black community was burned to the ground. At the turn of the 20th century, the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma became one of the first communities in the country, thriving with Black entrepreneurial businesses. The prosperous town founded by many descendants of slaves, the people that they call lazy and shiftless and loafers and chiselers, the same people that they refer to as indolent, created a community, a burgeoning community, a prosperous community. And it earned a reputation as the Black Wall Street of America and became a harbor for African Americans in a highly segregated city under Jim Crow laws. So we're talking about 1921, okay? May 31st, 1921. On this day, 100 years ago, a white mob, and usually riots are perceived as things that discontent Black folks do. But if we really don't know the history, we don't know that the original rioters were white folks. These are the facts. Just go back and look at riots and a history of riots, and you'll see that there are some riotous people. They'll start a riot for any damn thing, but they'll definitely start a riot over something related to race. These are the facts. Okay? So in any rate, a white mob turned Greenwood upside down in one of the worst racial massacres in U.S. history. In the matter of hours, 35 square blocks of the vibrant Black community were turned into smoldering ashes. In less than a 24-hour cycle, they destroyed Black Wall Street. Now, there are a lot of Black people right now who, for the most part, have deprecating things to say about the ghetto and how Black people have ruined and destroyed the ghetto. But even if you have a burgeoning Black community, if they want to, they will destroy it. That's something you got to understand with a bomb. Countless Black people were killed. Estimates range from 55 to more than 300, and 1,000 homes and businesses were looted. There's your looting. Since you got so much to say about looters and how lawless they are. A lot of Black people, even Black people in this space, have a lot of deprecating things to say about looters. How they're criminals. But what happens when the shoe is on the other foot? Do you have the same energy? 1,000 homes and businesses were looted and set on fire. And here you have a picture that demonstrates some of the carnage that went down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's a group of people overlooking damaged properties and so on and so forth. Okay. Yet for the longest time, the massacre received scant mentions in newspapers, textbooks, and civil and governmental conversations. In other words, until 2000, it wasn't until 2000 that the slaughter was included in the Oklahoma public schools curriculum. And it did not enter American history books until recent years. The 1921 Tulsa Race Riot Commission was formed to investigate in 1997 and officially released a report in 2001. The massacre was actively covered up in the white community in Tulsa for nearly half a century. Talk about throwing stones and hiding your hands. This is it. And Scott Ellsworth is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Michigan and the author of The Groundbreaking, which is about the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre. And he says, and this is a quote from him, when I started my research in the 70s, I discovered that official National Guard reports and other documents were all missing. Tulsa's two daily white newspapers, they went out of their way for decades not to mention the massacre. Researchers who would try to do the work on this as late as the early 70s had their lives threatened and had their career threatened. So if you investigate into this massacre, and we'll get into the reason why it occurred in the first place, but if you even inquired about it, people would threaten your life or threaten to destroy you, either death or social death. They would threaten you with that. Just think about that. For telling the truth about something that occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there you got a dead man, man. The body of an unidentified black victim of the Tulsa race massacre lies in the street as a white man stands over him. They got his face covered up. 100 years ago today. In the week following the massacre, Tulsa's chief of police ordered his officers, dig this now, the chief of police of Tulsa ordered his police officers, to go to all the photography studios in Tulsa and to confiscate all the pictures taken of the carnage. Can you imagine that? That's some bold shit right there. Anyway, these photos, which were later discovered and became the materials the Oklahoma Commission used to study the massacre, eventually landed in the lap of Michelle Plas at Tulsa Historical Society and Museum in '01. And here's a quote from her. It took me about 4 days to get through the box because the photos were so horrific. I had never seen those kind of pictures before. I didn't know anything about the riot before I came to work here. I never heard of it. Since I've been here, I've been at my desk to guard them to the very best of my ability. And I guess these are some pictures and about people who were injured in this massacre. And that's a photo from the American National Red Cross. So anyway, the Tulsa Museum was founded in the late 90s, but visitors couldn't find a trace of the race massacre until 2012. So it took 20 some odd years for anybody to be able to dig up any archives of pictures related to this massacre. All traces of it were wiped. But that was until 2012 when Plas became executive director. And she was determined to tell all of Tulsa's stories. A digital collection of the photos was eventually made available for viewing online. I wish there was a link here that would demonstrate where this site is so you can see the photos for yourself. But I'm interested in seeing all those photos myself. And then she goes on to say there's still a significant number of people in our community who don't want to look at it, who don't want to talk about it. And then there's a subsection here which says the silence is layered. Not only did Tulsa city officials cover up the bloodbath, but they also deliberately shifted the narrative of the massacre by calling it a riot and blaming the Black community for what went down, according to Alicia Adewale, an archaeologist at University of Tulsa. So instead of it being a massacre that white folks put forth on their own agency, they blame Black folks for it, which is a typical damn tactic and move by these people. The massacre also wasn't discussed publicly in the African American community for a long time. And they say, it was first out of fear. Because if it happened once, it can happen again. And trust and believe, you might think it might not ever happen, but damn it, it can happen again. Why you thinking you respectable? You a well-wishing, hard-working Negro? Well, those were some well-wishing, hard-working Negroes too. Were they not? That was Black Wall Street. But anyway, you are seeing the perpetrators walking freely on the streets, Odawale said. You are in the Jim Crow South, and there are racial terrors happening across the country at this time. They are protecting themselves for a reason. Moreover, this became such a traumatic event for survivors, and much like Holocaust survivors and World War II veterans, many of them didn't want to burden their children and grandchildren with these horrible memories. Ellsworth said he knows of descendants of massacre survivors who didn't find out about it until they were in their 40s and 50s. And see, this is something Black people do a lot. We don't preserve our history and tell our tales. Other ethnic groups do this. You think the Jews who suffered what they suffered in Nazi Germany didn't expose and tell their story and continue to tell it? We gotta be the only group of people who won't tell our tales of oppression, domination, violence, aggression, the whole nine. We just cover it up like it didn't happen. As if we just forget about it, put our heads down, all of a sudden, all of the bad memories will just go away. All of the history, all of the connections throughout time and space, because just like if you throw a rock in a still pond, even though the rock may sink to the bottom of the pond, the event which caused the ripples and the waves within the pond reverberate long after the stone has been thrown. There's still connections and ties to these events, still feelings, trauma, still connected to these events that we like to forget about or minimize or explain away. Because that's what Negroes do, right? We're going to John Henry our way through it. You Negroes is the problem. Anyway, the silence is layered just as the trauma is layered, Odawale said. The historical trauma is real, and that trauma lingers, especially because there is no justice, no accountability, and no reparation or monetary compensation. Get that through your head. No justice related to this at all. They just destroyed Black Wall Street, the best and the brightest of Negroes who had emerged out of slavery. A beacon of hope, a light for all to see. And there is no justice related to it. Man. Now here's where we come to the misandric part. And this is important to me. What triggered all of this? What was the catalyst for the destruction of thousands of homes and businesses, 35 square blocks of a community and the death of anywhere between 55 to 300 people. What was the cause of it? Well, on May 31st, 1921, 100 years ago from today, a 19-year-old by the name of Dick Rowland, a shoe shiner, a black boy, an ADOS, an African American, a colored boy, whatever you want to call it, 19 years of age, tripped and fell down in an elevator, and his hand accidentally touched the shoulder of Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white girl who was operating the elevator. She screamed, Roland ran, and this is what sparked the whole debacle, the whole massacre. This is why this event is directly connected to Black Misandric Aggression. Because if that would have been a black woman who tripped and fell and touched that white woman's shoulder, do you think this would have popped off like that? I doubt it. This is why it's important for people to understand that racism gets played out through the filter of gender. But it's not what you would think today, because you have all of these theories and ideologies which talk about who is the most oppressed political group and so on and so forth, but they don't look at the historical facts. And when they do look at the historical facts, those groups who pretend that they're most oppressed because they're members of multiple groups of oppressed people, when you look at the historical record, you don't find them dying in the same numbers as black men. You just don't see it. You don't see the same kind of racial animus and energy as is directed towards black men. You don't see it. So Sarah Page screamed, Dick Rowland ran, and the police were summoned, and Page, after having screamed, don't know if it was a knee-jerk reaction, but whatever the case may be, the cultural context in which this occurred is the Jim Crow South, 1921, 100 years ago. Now, we know for a fact that this is how many years removed from slavery itself, the emancipation. So emancipation happened in 1865, correct? So add another 60 years to that. We're 60 years removed away from slavery. And we know who were the terrorists during that time frame. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, it becomes etched into the popular conscious of white America that black men are a threat. And you know what the real sad thing is? Black men probably should be a fucking threat. Because they know what they've done. They know what they did. That's why they tried to hide the shit and slip it up under the rug. They know what they've been doing. We probably should be a fucking threat. But that's too much radical Negro talk, ain't it? That's too much radical Negro talk. Oh no, we shouldn't say nothing about them white folk. We just, it's us. We is our own worst enemy. We's we just some bad people. And if we wasn't so lazy and shiftless and spineless, we have something. And I hear this, man, it just befuddles my brain, man. Because you know what? If it happened to them, they probably would be a fucking threat. Believe it. Believe it. We talking about the same people who went to war with England for no taxation without representation and likened it, compared it to slavery. That to them was like slavery and enough to create a war. We went through slavery, literally. And not to say we didn't fight to remove ourselves from it, because we did fight in the Civil War and we fought. It's not like we're cowards or anything like that. It's just that we don't have the numbers. But these people are very mindful of the fact of what happened in Haiti. Trust me, they know. These people aren't stupid. They know what went down in Haiti. But now all of a sudden, black men become caricaturized as violent, dangerous, and criminal rapists and stalkers, madmen, obsessed men who are going to defile the bodies of pure white women. This has been the narrative in this country for quite a long time. But anyway, Paige refused to press charges, to her credit, if you want to give her credit for anything. But by that afternoon, there was already talks of lynching Dick Rowland. We're going to have us a lynching and hanging tonight. The tension then escalated after the white newspaper, the Tulsa Tribune, ran a front page story entitled, check it, real talk, nab Negro for attacking girl in elevator. Even though the girl didn't even want to press charges. We got an excuse to get us one, boys. All we need is a reason. And the Tulsa Tribune accused Rowland of stalking, assault, and rape. Now, if you're living in the Jim Crow South, that boy ran from that elevator because he didn't want to actually come close to that white girl. It's just like the Becky situations, the Karen situations, where you could be bird watching, barbecuing, swimming, shopping, and be accused of committing a crime. And not to say that there aren't black men who commit crimes. Yes, there are. Not saying that there are not any at all. But this narrative about black men being rapists, when these people actually were in mass rapists and the creators of concubines, literally, statutorily. No, I'm not saying that there wasn't any advantage for black women, who wanted to somehow gain the graces of their masters and get freedom for having babies who would then be turned over into slaves, which is a horrible condition to be in. And to even acquiesce to that is even more horrible. But we know who the original terrorists were, the original violence producers were. But I guess this ain't gonna be able to get monetized because I'm, telling too much truth right now. Okay, might get a strike. And this is I guarantee you, this people will go back and watch this video and say that I'm hating white folks for telling the truth. I guarantee it. I bet my life on it. These people will come back, do a review of this stream, and declare that I put something in here that somehow has no relevance or bearing to the truth, and it's some sort of political assessment, and that I'm hating another ethnic group. I bet you. But that's not the case. We're just talking about political reality. In the Tribune, there was also a now lost editorial entitled "To Lynch Tonight." They can't find the editorial now. They're trying to, hide it, conceal it, obfuscate, deny, deflect. See, this is why America has an issue with race. Because there's too much denial, there's too much deflection, there's too much kicking the can down the road and pushing it off until later instead of dealing with it up front and actually creating reparation and reconciliation. But instead, you got the same kind of behavior. It might be qualitatively different, but it's still modally the same. Oh, wasn't that serious? Oh, nothing. It happened so long ago. A lot of things happened a long time ago that have an impact on your life today. Quite a few things. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Many people believe that the newspaper coverage undoubtedly played a part in sparking the massacre. So you can thank the Tulsa Tribune for inciting a massacre and the aftermath. For Black Tulsans, the massacre resulted in a decline in home ownership, which is the connection to now. A decline in home ownership, occupational status, and educational attainment. So Black people would have been further ahead, especially in this demographic location, if it was the case that they would have been left to their own devices and allowed to actually naturally progress, like every other ethnic group in the United States has been able to, apart from the Native Americans, because what's happened to them is tragic, I admit it. But any other European ethnic group, for damn certain. Today, there are only a few Black businesses on the single remaining block in the Greenwood district, once hailed as the Black Wall Street. This month, 3 survivors of the 1921 massacre, ages 100, 106, and 107, and a Georgia congressman introduced a bill that would make it easier for them to seek reparations. Now, how do you make it easy or not to get reparations? Why is there such blockage? We know this was wrong. They know this shit was wrong. They know this, man. And not only did it have an effect over Greenwood, but imagine if you're a Black person and you have a burgeoning and blooming community. What would you think about your prospects for the future if they could destroy Black Wall Street? You probably think to yourself, we better stop being as productive. We better stop being as excellent as we can be, because if we actually demonstrate our excellence, we're going to make these white folks upset. We're going to piss them off. Meanwhile, historians and archaeologists continued to unearth what was lost for decades. In October, a mass grave in Oklahoma Cemetery was discovered that could be the remains of at least a dozen identified and unidentified African American massacre victims. We are able to look for signs of survival and signs of lives, and really look for those remnants of built Greenwood and not just about how they died. Greenwood never left. And that's the end of the article. So all of this was started. The whole event, the whole debacle was started over what? Black misandric aggression. Aggression towards a black male. An excuse to cause harm. All sparked by a hapless, an innocent, an arbitrary encounter from a young boy, 19 years old, tripping in an elevator, touching a white girl so that he wouldn't fall down. The white girl screaming because she perceived the black male, in this instance, to be an embodiment of the jungle itself, some sort of uncivilized brute, like an orangutan or a gorilla in a cage, coming into contact with her pasty white skin, and then all of a sudden, this transpires. But it should be a lesson to black women as well. Because racist black misandric aggression can also have an impact and spill over and enter into your life as well. The harm that could come to us can come to you as well. And this is what is lost in this game today. Everybody wants to play identity politics, and it really is a form of triangulation from these people, man. I'm just keeping it 100. Because if they really loved us all like that, or any group or demographic of us like that for real, they'd be doing a lot more than what they're actually doing now to ensure and to let you know that they really give a damn. They wanted to lynch that boy, but they did more than lynch that boy. They destroyed an entire fucking community, all related to the narrative of the black male brute and the rapist. Not just black men, but it was all the catalyst for it, this hatred, this narrative spinning around black men. That was the catalyst for it. But that catalyst can also turn into some harm and hurt for you. This is why we're spellbound. A lot of black men, especially in this space, are dumbfounded by the lack of historical understanding that this is a team sport, or it should be. And I see the brother that says it was 100 years ago, get over it, they say. Well, today is Memorial Day. This is the thing. They'll tell you to forget it, but they remember their history, their highs, their lows, their ups, their downs, their victories, their losses. They don't forget. They have holidays related to the memory of their history, the retelling, the recasting, the reframing of history. But we don't even tell each other our history for fear That it's too traumatic. Best to leave it alone. No, we gotta put our heads down. No, you fomenting some stuff ain't got nothing to do with no reality now. And for some reason, these kind of events aren't even covered, not even brought to bear or brought to light by our scholars, Black scholars, particularly feminist scholars. And this brings me to my next point. They wanted to lynch that boy. And right now, Black folks in the Black community are involved in an identity politics, oppression Olympics game, which to me is ridiculous, but that's what we're involved in. Don't ask me why we're involved in it, but it's what we are involved in right now. And Black men are being told, don't worry about what's happening to you, because when we highlight what has occurred to you, well, then you make other people invisible. And that in and of itself is a form of oppression. Like, really? While we out here getting gunned down and shit, we supposed to just, not talk about it, because if we talk about it, then we gonna make you invisible. Motherfucker, we out here bleeding, god damn it. You're using our corpse as a springboard to get rich and to get some corporate sponsorships and shit. You ever heard the phrase over my dead body? That's supposed to mean something serious. But imagine, literally, motherfucker stepping over your dead body like, where's the bag, please? Where's the microphone, please? Over dead bodies, man. Talk about dropping some bombs. God damn. And let me, I have to show you this. And this, I swear, it'll be the last thing I show you. And I won't show you very much of it, okay? I promise. And then I'm about to be up out this joint. Gender and lynching. This is the type of shit that Black women in the academy are putting forth now. So this is an article written by a woman by the name, hold on, man, don't tell me I lost it, by Evelyn Simeon. And this, was uploaded by her relatively recently, 2020. Mister, you ought to have heard the nigger wench howl. And I'm not taking away, downplaying, minimizing the fact that Black women also were lynched. But we got to keep this shit in its proper perspective. And it seems like we've lost the ability to do that because we want to make sure that everybody's seen. But listen to this, man. 2 paragraphs and I'm done. The conventional approach to American civil rights history has focused almost exclusively on Black male victimhood during the era of lynching, encompassing nearly 5 decades, from 1880 to 1930. Rather than broaden and deepen our understanding of racial discrimination, however, such an approach often simplifies and distorts. So when we talk about the numbers of Black men who were lynched in comparison to the numbers of Black women who were lynched, we're simplifying and distorting reality because the picture is more nuanced and complex than that. So it simplifies and distorts the more complex and devastating history of lynching. Indeed, both academic and popular discussions of lynching are dominated by a static, fixed understanding of deprivation that is principally racially based. So this is where she's going to intersect. She gonna remix with the intersect. Far less common is an association of the era with a richer, more nuanced understanding of deprivation that is critical of hierarchical relationships determined by interlocking systems of oppression, namely racism and sexism. There's your fucking intersectionality right there. There it is right there. It's more richer, or it's more rich, more robust, more nuanced. When we talk about this other group that you don't ever look at. But I want you to put this in perspective. Although the ritual lynching or the ritual of lynching claim many lives, gender in lynching is not so much about Black female victimhood as it is about reclaiming the stories or the life stories of African American women via public remembrance, oral history, and community narratives. So it's a book called Gender and Lynching. This book examines the musical, theatrical, literary, photographic, and artistic representations of women and lynching that involved either Black white audiences or coalitions between Black and white women against lynching. Now, I don't have a problem with Black women being against lynching, especially Black women in the past. But this shit right here is some newfangled shit. This is different. The political orientation is of a different kind, qualitatively. Instead of having women who understand and commiserate with the fact that our men are catching hell from this system. And these folks, these good old boys, are predominantly using Black misandric aggression to take out our daddies, our grandfathers, our uncles, our brothers and sons. Yeah, they'll get us too, but they really get at them. So we got to support them. That's not the shit we getting now. It's about visibility and being seen at all costs. But again, I want you to put something in proper perspective. I want you to put this in perspective. Just so you know it. And so you think I ain't lying, I'm gonna share one more screen. I swear it'll be the last damn screen I share. And I'm out of here because I'm getting hot. So this is a website and it's called Lynching. Well, it's the Equal Justice Initiative is the name of the website, okay? But the blog post is called Lynching in America, Confronting the Legacy of Racial Terror, okay? The lynching of African Americans was terrorism, a widely supported campaign to enforce racial subordination and segregation. Lynching in America documents more than 4,400 racial terror lynchings in the US between the period of Reconstruction and World War II. So there's about 4,400 victims of lynching in the US between Reconstruction and World War II. Now, going back to old girl's article, and I collapsed this, so I'm not going to go back. Do you know how many women were lynched during that time period? I want you to take a guess. I'm going to give you 30, 40 seconds, and I'm going to chill out, hit my vape stick, and see if you can give me an accurate number. I want to see if you can give me an accurate number. I want to see. No, it's more than that. So I'm gonna put Herbert Lewis up here because he's close to the mark. In that woman's article, she admits, I'm gonna share the screen again. This is the last time I'm sharing the damn screen, man. Miss Evelyn Simeon, no disrespect to her. I'm just, you put it out there, this is academic literature. I have the right to look at it, examine it, and reframe it how I see fit. Rather than sidestep or avoid some of the most vexing and controversial issues inherent in civil rights history, this introduction will explore how scholars of lynching have typically ignored the ways in which African American women experience racial, sexual violence in the South, where at least 150 women were lynched between 1880 and 1965. Most of these things happened before 1930. So we're talking about 150 women. Okay, let me go back and share the link to this. Which article? It all depends on which article you're talking about. But I'm going to find her article. And then I'm going to, give, you can look this stuff up, bro. I mean, like, just look at the titles to some of it, but I can give you her article. I can give you her article. All right. Now, here's the deal. And I want you to put this in perspective. What percent of 150 is 4,400? What percent of 100? What is 150% of 440? 4,400. 4,400. What is it? It's definitely under 5%. And I'm not taking away from the history at all. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be explored. But don't put it out there like, it's black men that are privileged in some way because predominantly it's a narrative unique to men. But it's all about visibility now and intersectionality now, and black men being quiet now about what they're experiencing and they're going through. They don't even have the capacity to lead, like BGS said the other day, in organizations that are supposedly dedicated towards ensuring that their lives are not blotted out. What part of the game is this? This is some newfangled shit. To me, it's politically naive. It would never have occurred with a woman by the name of Fannie Lou Hamer. She wouldn't have stood for no shit like this. Emmett Till's mother wouldn't have stood for no shit like this. The women back in the day who were in the civil rights movement would have been like, this is some bullshit. But not today. Today, it's all about talking about us, our gender, hold on, wait a minute. You mean out of 4,400 people, over 4,000 of us are being killed, but we got to take time to highlight your fucking pain, man. Not to say that you didn't experience any pain, but what the reality of it should demonstrate is if you are a woman, if you step out of line too fucking hard, your ass will get checked too. That's what it demonstrates to me. If you start thinking too fucking high of yourself too goddamn soon, we'll put your ass on a motherfucking end of a string as well. If you don't know what the fuck your place is. That's what it demonstrates to me. Now, I'm not here to disparage anybody, to talk down to anybody, to be deprecating to anybody. But all I'm trying to do is to indicate that right now there is a disconnect between demographics in the black community. You can call it the community, whatever you want to call it. I see you, POT, TPOT. I see you out there, dog. And I told you I'd never call you by that name or that thing that squeals in the kitchen. Prophet of thought was cracking. But the only thing I'm trying to underscore here, there is a disconnect that never existed before. Now you have these women in our community saying they are the most oppressed because they occupy multiple intersection of oppressed identities. There is a fucking disconnect. I don't know if it's divorcement from reality. I'm shocked at this shit. And all the while, black men are supposed to sit here and be quiet on their hands, don't say anything as we go through horrors in order to make other people feel included. You don't want to be included in that drama for real. That's like a motherfucker playing the game of basketball. You only play 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. The game already done been fucking over with. But we got to show most highlights about your ass? I'm asking the question, man. It seems ridiculous to me that we even have to have this kind of conversation. I just don't understand it, man. I am lost on this shit. I'm lost. I'm not discounting the shit that women go through. I understand that they go through things, whatever the case may be. But come on, man. You can't expect for us to sit here and to understand what we understand and not to say anything in order for you to fucking feel good. While we get put in fucking caskets and shit. While we bear the brunt of the viciousness related to the phenomena of racism in the United States. Come on, man. And even historically, when you begin to talk about slavery, we already know the predominant demographic of slaves were men. And I will tell you this, only about 5% of the slaves ever came and set foot on United States soil. The vast majority of them went to South America and the West Indies, where they had larger numbers than the plantation owners. That's why you see more remnants of African culture in those cultures or in those countries. And that's why you can see something like a Haiti. Where they worked those men to the bone, to the death. They had no process of reproduction for these people. They worked them till they died. Then they went to go get some more. And that was the whole plan. Not reproduction. Now, let's go get us some women so we can make them into mammies and domestics. No. That wasn't the plan. Get as many of those young black male bodies over here as we can so we can get this sugar cane out and transport it back to the old world and wherever else in the world that we can trade it for. Now, if the truth hurts, it is what it is. If I have this opinion, sorry, it is what it is. I'm not trying to say that it was a walk in the park for anybody who's black. That's not the point. The point is, I'm not trying to dominate any narrative whatsoever. You can talk about what you've gone through without trying to apply the moniker of patriarchy and multiple forms of oppression to Black women so that the story can get out. This tug of war shit got to stop. At some point, this has to end. And I'm telling you right now, all you're seeing is the natural reaction to years upon years upon years of narratives that have been shoved down our throats. And men being as chivalrous as they are, imagining themselves to be contemporary versions of Galahad and Lancelot, go right along with the narrative in order to make everybody feel good, because you know how it's, traditionally said, happy wife, happy life. There should be no reason in the world why men who are undergoing this shit, as barbaric as it has been, to be in competition with anybody over attention related to it. Instead, we should be trying to find means by which to overcome it for once and for fucking all. Not one demographic above another getting pig feets and chitlins and blankets and house Negro status above and beyond anybody else. But I guess that's just too much to ask for. I'm done, bro. I'm about to get pissed off right now. I really don't want to get pissed off. I just want to enjoy the rest of my weekend, man, and chill on out, man. Again, all I'm trying to do is to say we have reached a point where this narrative is unbearable for us. It has reached critical mass. And this is not an attack. This is saying stop the narcissism, man. Cut the shit out. Cut that bullshit out, man. Stop the fucking narcissism, because it's becoming unbearable. Everybody has a tipping point. You know what Papa said back in the day. You know what he said. You know what he said, man.
That's all I can stand. I can't stand no more.
We have reached that point, man. So I want to thank everybody out there, man. Thanks for joining me, man. It's Memorial Day. You don't have to be here with me, man. And sorry for the format in which I've done this. I had intended to do it on OBS, but I didn't. I had to download a new version of Big Sur. I didn't do it, or whatever the case may be. And when it came time for me to do it, it took too long for me to actually get the shit to work. So, but anyway, T Fitness for you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your donation, man. The Prophet of Thought, thank you for your donation, sir. I appreciate your contribution. And all of the other men who've donated over the course of this stream, because I can't look at all of it. But I want to thank you all. I appreciate your support and your help. At this time, I'm about to cut this short. Be safe, gentlemen. That's all I ask for you to do, man. Be safe and enjoy yourself, man. Drink one of them brews and eat some of them ribs for me, man. I'll holler at y'all next time, man. Be good.